Hi, Roy.
Hi, Sophie. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Good, good.
So, we're just going to have a quick chat about
Yeah.
what it's been like working with me over the past few weeks,
Yep.
um, and just see where you're at now compared to where you were. So, what was your situation like before we started working together?
Cool. Before we start working together, I was obviously quite into my mindset stuff and everything else, and I realised that I had a few blocks, and that I needed to take that next step really to look at how to get rid of them, kind of free myself a little bit from the things I knew were holding me back, but I just didn't know how to shift them. Like stuff from the past, childhood kind of stuff and things like that. But also, it was frustrating because I could kind of see it, but not quite know what action to take or anything like that. So yeah.
Good. Okay. So, what reservations, if any, did you have about working with me?
Cool. Well, obviously, I've seen your stuff on Facebook and things like that, and I knew you. So I didn't really have reservations about working with you, but I was quite excited to see where it would take me and kind of what would be the next step. So not so much reservations, more a case of, okay, where's this actually going to lead? Where's this going to go? Because, this is quite new to have coaching the way we did it and that, so that was good.
Good. Okay. And how did you find the whole course?
Yeah, it was really good. What I found really interesting was that we started with like standard kind of one set of problems which revolved around my fears around kind of scarcity and lack and money blocks really. But actually, when we did a lot of the work, as we went through, there were different levels of things that kind of came through. With some of it was a lot about childhood with my dad, but also some of it was about my money kind of beliefs and things. But then as we went through, it was just, I suppose a lot more of it was less about what had actually happened and just my interpretation of what had happened and where I felt blocked and stuck and where I just wasn't letting myself kind of letting it go really. Um,
Because
yeah,
that's the problem, isn't it? Is the way that we look at things can be really holding us back, and
yeah,
just by changing that view and switching it, that we
yeah.
start to move forward and we start to clear the way so that we can start letting more of what we actually want in our lives into our lives and feeling better about it.
Yeah, 100%. And the interesting thing for me was that, I mean, I'm quite an aware person, but it was so interesting when there's little things that kept happening. I was like, oh, that's different. That's not where I thought that was going to head. Or there'd be kind of the standard things. It started off really well with like a bit about money. And then the reason why some of the money blocks was really different as well. It wasn't just about coming from like a single parent family. Some of it was just one event that happened that involved money, and that left me feeling either not worth it or kind of fearful. Um, yeah, so that was really interesting. Where stuff was coming from wasn't necessarily what I expected.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely crazy because there can be, as you said, there's like one thing that can happen, and that can then create lots of other issues and sort of like in the future. So
Yeah,
by really getting to the root of what's going on, we can then clear that so that it doesn't become that pattern anymore.
no, absolutely.
Right. So, what would you say has been the one best result for you then?
It's a difficult one. I suppose clarity. I suppose clarity kind of look at from where I'm in now, in the now, clarity for the future, but also clarity on the past. You can't change the past, it is what it is, but your perception, your interpretation of the past can change. You know, it led me on to do other things, and one of the things that having that clarity allowed me to do was to write a letter to my mum who passed away a few years ago. But even though she's never going to read it, it was the knowing that the energy behind it, the release behind it, the interpretation of the events that had happened was some are factual, but some of it was very different to what I thought my experience was. And it allowed me to really change my perception of the experience. The experience happened,
Yeah.
but being positive, negative, was it quite as bleak as I thought? Yeah, in some ways, but does that allow? I don't allow that now to define my future based around where I've come from, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So that was good.
It's losing that victim mentality.
Yeah, and I didn't really think that I had that going on that much. You know, I knew there was a few bits, but I really focused that into the money stuff and the kind of, well, I've never been successful. I've never had oodles, noodles and money. That's just kind of it is, very working class type of situation. But the reality is, it was just where my kind of perception was at with that. So yeah, that's probably the one thing, is that clarity on the past as much as the future.
Yeah, good. And how do you actually feel about the future now?
It's quite exciting in the sense that I know that if I'm going to come across blocks again in the future. I'm going to come across little trips in the road and bumps and everything else. But I feel very much that, not so much that I've got all the tools to deal with them, but I'll be able to look at it differently. I'm going to say, okay, so why is this kind of showing up? Why is this feeling this way? And what is it that's maybe triggered that? Where does that come from in my past? If one thing has a big impact in the future, one event triggers like an emotion off, it's been able to look back at that and go, oh, okay. So does that mimic something from the past, or is that trying to tell me something? And just having that ability to kind of look at it a little differently, really, I suppose, as to what I need the next step to be. So, yeah.
Awesome. So really what it's all about is being able to have those tools and techniques so that you can then not react out the same way that you've always reacted. When anything happens, you're in a much better place in which to deal with it as well. Would you agree that's right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how like one tool that we used straight away was the cutting the cord one. We used that quite early, and I'm quite a visual person. So for me, that works really well. But then I found that I was able to do that. Like I'd be in the shower and I'd have a thought, and I'd be like, oh no, just get rid, cut that off, and then just nip it in the bud before it even becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily go and actively use that technique now, but I've got it there for as and when little things happen, it's kind of bang, dealt with. And that's really, I suppose, a lot of the benefits and the really exciting stuff is that I know I don't have to be limited by what I'm currently experiencing or what I have experienced.
Yeah, so you have a choice in how you react.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
In that situation.
Yeah, and the thing was with that, I thought I was quite in tune with, I was quite in tune with where I was at and being able to choose how I react to that. But it was funny how certain things still were getting just a pure emotional reaction rather than any kind of thought behind it. So that definitely feels that I've taken that whole thing to a next level now with how I choose to react and see things and that. So yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I have loved working with you, Roy, because every session has been different and I have no idea what's going to come up. So for me, it's just as exciting as for whoever I'm working with as well. So I have loved working with you. So thank you so much for doing this success story today. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how you start to progress in the future.
Brilliant. No, that's fine. And thank you very much for obviously, doing everything you did now, because it was interesting every session. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Head on to my website. On there, you can register for a free session with myself. You just need to complete the box on the home page, submit your details, and Rachel, who is my diary manager, or myself will be in contact with you as soon as possible to book you in. Now, the session's an hour long and it can be via Skype or in person. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we can do this session. So just go along, complete your details and submit it, and I'll be in contact with you as soon as possible. The website you need to visit is www.sophiewatson-therapy.com.